It began with a laugh that wasn't meant to be funny. On a Thursday night, the Maple Ridge Middle School gym rattled with the usual chaos of practice. Balls bouncing, sneakers squealing, parents murmuring on the bleachers with styrofoam cups of coffee in hand. The kids were lined up for drills, while Rick Dalton, the assistant coach, strutted back and forth with a whistle dangling from his neck. Near the door, Ben Ortiz bent to stack a pile of packages against the wall. He'd just come from his delivery route, still in his work boots, shirt damp from a 12-hour shift. He wasn't supposed to be part of the scene. He was just waiting for Lily, his 10-year-old daughter, who liked to sit on the bleachers and watch. Rick spotted him and smirked. Loud enough for the kids to hear, he called out, "Careful, folks! Leave room for the delivery guy. Don't want him teaching you how to carry boxes instead of a ball." A ripple of chuckles spread through the line. Not cruel, but collective. The kind of laugh that reminds you you're on the outside. Lily shrank into her hoodie, hugging her backpack, eyes glued to the floor. Ben saw the shift in her posture and felt something twist inside. He'd been called worse in warehouses and loading docks, but this time was different. His daughter was watching. He could have walked out. Instead, he picked up a loose ball and stepped onto the court. "Mind if I show him something?" he asked quietly, nodding at one of the smaller boys fumbling with his dribble. Rick raised a brow, half amused. "Be my guest." Ben crouched low, showing the boy how to plant his feet, pivot slow, and glide into a layup. No flourish, just steady steps. The boy tried, missed, tried again, and on the third attempt the ball kissed the backboard and dropped through. His grin lit up the gym. The other kids clapped without being told. Even a few parents leaned forward, surprised. Rick forced a laugh. "Not bad, but we're here to win games, not preschool." Ben didn't bite. He just handed the boy another ball and gave a small nod. "Keep at it, that's how you learn." Lily's eyes had lifted now, bright with something between pride and relief. When Ben walked back toward the door, she tugged his sleeve. "They listened to you, Dad." He swallowed, blinking at her, maybe for a minute. But as the kids went back to drills, a quiet shift lingered. They hadn't just laughed at the delivery guy, they'd listened. And though no one knew it yet, not even Ben, the joke that night had opened a door that couldn't be closed. 2 nights later, the gym was buzzing again. Kids shuffled in with backpacks half-zipped, parents filled the bleachers with paper cups of coffee and tired chatter, and the hardwood floor echoed with warm-up drills. Ben leaned against the wall near the exit, waiting quietly with Lily at his side. He wasn't planning on stepping in again. He was just there to pick up his daughter and go home. But Coach Carter noticed. She walked over between drills, pushing her glasses up. "Mr. Ortiz," she said, voice low but firm, "would you consider helping us more regularly?" Ben blinked, thinking he'd misheard. "Me? I'm not a coach." "You've got patience," she replied, "and patience is harder to teach than a jump shot." Before Ben could respond, Rick cut in from across the court, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Patience doesn't win games, Coach. Look, no disrespect, but this guy hauls boxes all day. What's he going to teach these kids? How to stack a delivery truck?" A few parents chuckled nervously, others avoided Ben's eyes. Ben felt his face heat, but before he could say anything, Lily tugged his sleeve. "Dad," she whispered, her voice barely above the bounce of basketballs, "just try." The word landed heavy. He'd told her 100 times that trying was what mattered most. Now she was handing it back to him. He glanced at Carter, who gave him a steady look that felt less like pressure and more like trust. "It doesn't have to be every night," she said, "just when you can." Ben exhaled. His shift started before dawn. His boss already had an eye on him. Bills didn't stop piling up. But Lily's wide-eyed stare left no room for excuses. "All right," he said slowly, "I'll do what I can." That night, he didn't grab a whistle or bark commands. Instead, he picked up a ball, crouched low, and showed the kids a drill they hadn't done before. "We're not racing, we're learning. One step, then the next. Take 3 breaths before you move." At first, the kids laughed, awkward and fidgety. But soon, the gym echoed with the rhythm of sneakers squeaking in unison and voices counting their breaths together. A boy who usually hid at the back of the line found himself dribbling smooth and steady. A shy girl lifted her head for the first time all season. Parents leaned forward, whispering. They saw it too. Rick folded his arms. "Cute, but let's see if it works in a real game," he muttered. Ben didn't answer. He only smiled faintly as the kids finished the drill, each of them standing taller than when they had started. Lily ran up to him at the end, breathless. "See? They listened again." This time, Ben didn't argue. "Yeah," he said softly, resting a hand on her shoulder. "They did." And though he didn't know it yet, saying yes that night had changed more than the practice. It had changed the season. By the next practice, something in the air had shifted. Parents who usually sat with their eyes on their phones now leaned forward, curious. The kids too came in buzzing, glancing toward the corner where Ben stood with Lily, as if waiting to see if he would step onto the court again. Rick blew his whistle sharp. "All right, suicides, let's go, move it." The kids groaned, already dragging their feet across the hardwood. Sweat dotted their brows, shoulders slumped, the spark from last time fading fast. Ben walked onto the floor slowly, holding a few cones. "Coach," he said quietly, "mind if we try something different?" Rick gave a dry laugh. "Sure, delivery guy, maybe you can teach them how to sign for a package while they're at it." Some parents chuckled uncomfortably, but the kids froze, watching Ben. He crouched low, setting the cones in a short line. "This isn't about speed," he said. "It's about balance. Watch." He shuffled side to side, hands steady, knees bent. Small steps, breathe with every move, control before power. One by one, the kids followed. At first clumsy, tripping and giggling, but Ben stayed beside them, correcting gently. "Not too fast, trust your feet." When one boy stumbled and hit the floor, Rick barked, "Up! Again, don't waste time." But Ben knelt beside the boy, calm. "You okay?" The kid nodded, embarrassed. Ben smiled. "Good. Now slower. I'll do it with you." Together they shuffled the cones, and when the boy finished without falling, the whole line clapped. This time the laughter wasn't mocking, it was joy. Lily stepped forward, nervous but determined. She shuffled, tripped once, then steadied herself. By the time she reached the last cone and lifted a layup that kissed the glass and rolled in, her smile lit the room. The bleachers stirred, parents exchanged looks, some even clapped softly. Rick yanked the whistle from his neck and tossed it on the scorer's table. "Fine. If we're running daycare, I'm out for tonight. Let's see if Mr. Ortiz can keep your attention." He stormed to the bench, arms crossed, lips pressed thin. Coach Carter didn't stop him. She just leaned on the wall, arms folded, eyes on Ben. "Keep going," she said simply. The kids ran drill after drill, shoulders rising with confidence, voices louder with each count. By the end of practice, they weren't just moving, they were moving together. As they gathered their bags, Lily tugged Ben's sleeve, breathless. "They listened, Dad. They really did." Ben rested a hand on her shoulder. "No," he said softly. "They listened to themselves. That's the part that matters." From the bench, Rick's glare smouldered. His silence wasn't surrender, it was the promise of a fight still coming. And though Ben didn't know it yet, that fight would arrive sooner than he expected. By the next practice, Rick was ready. He strutted into the gym with the whistle back around his neck and a grin that made the kids uneasy. "Enough baby drills," he barked. "Tonight we scrimmage. Let's see if all this breathing and shuffling makes any difference when the ball is live." The kids froze. Scrimmages were always tense, more running, more mistakes on display, more chances to feel small. Coach Carter frowned. "Rick, they're not ready." He waved her off. "The real world doesn't wait until you're ready." His eyes flicked to Ben. "Unless our new helper thinks otherwise." Ben didn't answer, he simply clapped his hands. "All right, let's do this. But remember, 3 breaths before you move. Play your game, not theirs." The kids split into 2 teams. The ball tipped, sneakers squealed, and the scrimmage began. At first it was chaos. Wild passes, rushed shots, kids colliding. Rick smirked, arms folded. "See? They can't handle pressure." But then Ben called out, not loud, just steady, "Breathe, find each other." Something shifted. A boy who always panicked slowed down, dribbled twice, and made a clean pass. A girl boxed out and grabbed a rebound, surprising even herself. Lily shuffled low, caught the ball on the wing, and instead of forcing a shot, passed to a teammate under the hoop. Layup. The bench cheered like it was the championship. Parents leaned forward in their seats. They weren't watching polished basketball. They were watching their kids find composure. Rick blew his whistle furiously. "Defense, press harder!" His team swarmed, stealing a few easy baskets. But even when the score tilted against them, Ben's group didn't fold. They kept breathing, kept finding each other. When the final buzzer rang, Rick's team was ahead. He spun the whistle around his finger, smug. "Still lost," he muttered. But the gym wasn't quiet. Parents were clapping, kids were smiling, and even Carter's stern face had softened. They hadn't seen kids afraid, they'd seen kids learning. As the players packed their bags, Lily ran to her dad. "We didn't win," she said out of breath, "but it felt like we did." Ben knelt, brushing sweat from her forehead. "Because you stood tall, even when you were down. That's the real win." Rick watched from across the court, jaw tight. He had wanted the scrimmage to prove Ben was a fraud. Instead, it had proved something else, that the kids were starting to believe in themselves. And Rick, for the first time, realised he might be losing more than a game. Ben's alarm went off long before the sun came up. He rolled out of bed, shoulders aching from lifting boxes the day before, and quietly brewed coffee while Lily still slept under her quilt. By 6, he was already on the road, headlights cutting through the morning mist. Work at the depot had gotten heavier. A co-worker had quit the week before, and the supervisor wasn't hiding his frustration. "Ortiz," he barked, clipboard in hand, "you're already covering 2 routes. You start late again, and I'll give the overtime to someone else. You understand me?" Ben nodded, jaw tight. "Yes, sir." That night, he barely made it to the gym. Practice had already started, and Rick was running drills sharp and fast, kids red-faced and gasping. Parents looked restless in the bleachers. When Ben slipped through the door, Lily's eyes lit up. She ran over, tugging his hand. "Dad, you're here!" He crouched, catching his breath. "Wouldn't miss it." But after practice, as they walked home, his steps dragged. He listened as Lily chatted about her past during the scrimmage, about how the other kids had cheered. Her smile was wide, her voice full of belonging. And the more she talked, the heavier his chest felt. Later that night, after she'd gone to bed, Ben sat at the kitchen table staring at his cracked hands. The bills were stacked in a neat pile by the toaster, due dates circled in red. His boss's warning echoed in his head. He rubbed his temples and muttered under his breath, "I can't do both. I can't keep this up." A soft voice came from the hallway. "Quit what?" He looked up, startled. Lily stood there clutching her stuffed bear, eyes wide and worried. Ben exhaled, tired. "Maybe I shouldn't keep helping at practice. Maybe I should focus on work." Her chin trembled, but her voice was steady. "You can't quit the team. You promised." He pulled out the chair next to him, and she climbed up, hugging her bear tight. "Lily, if I lose my job, I can't keep the lights on. I can't keep us here." She shook her head fiercely. "But you already take care of me. She tapped her chest. "This is the first time I don't feel invisible. If you quit, I'll be right back on the outside." The words hit harder than any boss's threat. He reached for her hand, his voice breaking. "I don't want to let you down." "You won't," she whispered. "Not if you stay." For a long moment, the kitchen was silent but heavy with truth. He pulled her close, resting his chin on her hair. "All right," he said softly, "I'll stay." And though he didn't know how he would manage the hours, or the rent, or the weight of both worlds pressing on him, one thing was clear. Walking away from the team wasn't an option anymore. Not for Lily, not for himself. The next Tuesday, Ben's truck ran late again. A pallet had collapsed at the depot, and his supervisor made him stay behind to help reload. By the time he jogged into the school gym, practice was already underway. What he walked into didn't sound like basketball, it sounded like a boot camp. "Faster! Again! If you can't keep up, you don't belong on this court." Rick's voice cracked sharp against the walls. The kids sprinted up and down, faces red, gasping for air. A few stumbled, but Rick blew his whistle anyway. "No excuses, run it back." Parents shifted uneasily on the bleachers. Some clapped half-heartedly, but most just frowned, watching their kids wilt. Lily spotted her dad by the door, but she didn't wave. She just tightened her grip on the ball, eyes wide. Ben walked closer, jaw tight. "What's going on here?" Rick didn't look at him. What's going on is called discipline. Something these kids sorely lack. You can baby them all you want, Ortiz, but this is basketball. It's tough. Either they toughen up or they'll get crushed. As if on cue, a boy tripped, hitting the floor hard. He stayed down, chest heaving. Rick barked, "Up! You don't get water till you finish the set." Ben was at the boy's side in 2 steps, kneeling. "Hey, you okay? Breathe with me. In, out. You did good." He helped the kid to his feet and handed him a water bottle. Rick stalked over, furious. "What are you doing? You're undermining me in front of the whole team." Ben stood, meeting his glare. His voice stayed calm, but it carried. "I'm not undermining you. I'm protecting them. A coach doesn't break kids down to prove a point. He builds them up so they don't break." The gym went silent. The only sound was the squeak of sneakers and the hum of the old scoreboard clock. Rick's jaw clenched. He yanked the whistle from around his neck and tossed it onto the scorer's table. "Fine. If you think you know better, have at it. But don't blame me when they fall apart." He stormed out, the doors slamming behind him. For a moment, the kids just stood there, sweaty and shaken. Then Lily stepped forward, voice small but steady. "Dad, can you show us the breathing thing again?" Ben nodded, crouching low. "All right, everyone, 3 breaths, together." The kids followed, shoulders rising and falling in sync. Slowly, their bodies relaxed. He set up cones, showed them footwork drills, passed the ball gently from one to the next. Mistakes turned into laughter instead of shame. From the bleachers, Coach Carter finally spoke. Her voice was low, but it carried. "That's what coaching looks like." Ben didn't smile, but inside he felt something stir. For the first time, the kids weren't just looking at him as Lily's dad or the delivery guy. They were looking at him as a coach, and in that moment he knew Rick wasn't done fighting. But neither was he. By the end of the week, the whispers had gotten too loud to ignore. Parents weren't just watching practices anymore. They lingered in the hallways, trading opinions like gossip at a grocery store. Some praised how their kids smiled walking out of the gym. Others worried the team was falling behind, wasting time with slow drills. Coach Carter finally called for a meeting in the school cafeteria. The smell of old coffee and disinfectant lingered in the air as folding chairs scraped across the linoleum. Parents filled the room, arms crossed, notebooks out, like they were sitting in on a board meeting instead of talking about 10-year-olds with basketballs. Rick stood at the front, leaning on a table, voice sharp. "Look, I'll say it plain. These kids need toughness. They need speed, discipline, structure. Breathing exercises and baby steps aren't going to cut it when they face real competition. You want them prepared for life? Then stop treating practice like a therapy session." A few parents nodded, murmuring agreement. One father in a ball cap spoke up. "My son's been on travel teams. If he stays here, he's going to fall behind." But another mum shook her head, voice trembling. "My daughter used to cry before practice. Now she can't wait to get there. She finally feels like she belongs. Isn't that worth something?" The room divided, half shifting toward Rick, half toward Ben, who sat quietly in the back with Lily pressed against his side. Carter raised her hands. "We can't coach 2 different philosophies. We need to settle this now." All eyes turned to Ben. He hadn't planned to speak, but Lily nudged him. "Dad," she whispered, "tell them." He stood slowly, clearing his throat. "I'm not a professional coach. I don't have trophies on the wall. I drive a truck for a living." He paused, eyes on the floor, then looked up. "But I do know what it feels like to be a kid standing outside a window, watching everyone else belong. These kids don't need to be scared into greatness. They need to believe they deserve to try." The room went quiet. Some parents blinked hard, others shifted in their chairs. Even those who disagreed couldn't ignore the way the words landed. Rick broke the silence. "Nice speech, but speeches don't win games. You want proof? Fine. Let's put it on the court. Next league game, no excuses. If Ortiz's way works, keep him around. If not, we go back to real coaching." Murmurs rippled through the room. Carter hesitated, then nodded slowly. "That's fair. The next game will decide." Ben exhaled, heavy but steady. "Fair enough." As the meeting broke up, Lily squeezed his hand tight. She didn't say anything, but her look said it all. This wasn't just their test, it was his too. And for the first time, Ben realised the whole season was riding on what happened next. Saturday morning, the Maple Ridge gym was packed tighter than anyone had ever seen. Parents squeezed onto the bleachers, coffee cups in hand, voices buzzing with expectation. The air smelled of popcorn from the concession stand, mixed with the polish of the freshly waxed floor. This wasn't just another game. Everyone knew it, this was the test. Rick sat near the scorer's table, arms crossed, expression smug but quiet. He didn't need to heckle. He just needed to wait for the kids to fall apart and let the results speak for him. The Tigers huddled nervously. Lily tugged at her jersey, her shoulders tight. "Dad," she whispered, "what if I mess up?" Ben crouched beside her. His voice was low, steady. "Then you try again. The only way to lose for real is to stop trying." The whistle blew. The other team came out strong, pressing hard. Within minutes, the Tigers were down 10 points. Passes sailed wild, shots clanged, sneakers squealed as kids stumbled under the pressure. Parents muttered, shifting uncomfortably. Rick leaned back with a thin smile. Ben called out, not loud but enough, 3 breaths, play your game. Slowly, the chaos began to settle. A boy who usually froze found the courage to pass cleanly. A girl boxed out and grabbed a rebound, grinning like she couldn't believe it herself. Lily caught the ball on the wing, paused for her 3 breaths, and dished a perfect pass to a teammate for a layup. The bench erupted. By half-time, the scoreboard still leaned against them, but the kids' shoulders were straighter. Their eyes were brighter. They weren't folding. In the fourth quarter, the gap shrank. They didn't catch up fully, but they moved as one. Each play looked calmer, sharper, more theirs. Parents stopped whispering about the score and started clapping for the effort. When the buzzer finally rang, the scoreboard showed a loss, clear and simple. But the kids didn't slump. They lifted their heads. They jogged off the court, smiling, sweaty but proud. Lily ran to her dad, cheeks flushed. "Did you see? I didn't shoot. I passed, and it worked." Ben scooped her up, laughing through a tight throat. "I saw, kiddo. That was the best play of the game." On the bleachers, parents clapped. Not politely, not out of pity, but because they had seen their kids stand tall under pressure. Coach Carter's eyes shone as she looked over at Ben, then back at the team. Rick muttered under his breath, "Still a loss." But for once, his voice was drowned out by applause. And in that noisy little gym, filled with clapping and kids beaming with pride, it was clear the scoreboard hadn't told the real story. The invitation came out of nowhere. Another team had dropped out of the county weekend tournament, and the organisers were desperate for a replacement. Coach Carter hesitated. "We're not ready for this," she said, but the kids buzzed like they'd been handed golden tickets. Parents nodded. Ready or not, it was a chance. Saturday morning, the Tigers walked into a gym twice as big as their own. Bright lights hummed overhead, banners hung from the rafters, and the bleachers were packed with families carrying nachos, soda cups, and cameras. It felt like stepping into another world. Ben crouched by Lily before warm-ups. "Same court, same ball," he reminded her. "Don't let the noise fool you." She nodded, chewing her lip, then whispered, "I'm not scared anymore, just awake." Their first game was messy, but the kids fought back and won by a single basket. The second was rougher, the opponent fast, aggressive. They lost by 10, but instead of hanging their heads, the team huddled on their own. No yelling, no sulking. Just kids reminding each other, breathe, try again. By late afternoon, against all odds, they landed in the semi-final. The crowd leaned in now, sensing something was happening. Rick reappeared, pacing behind the bench. "Let me call this one," he said, tight smile. "They'll choke if you don't push harder." Carter crossed her arms. "You had your chance." But during a timeout, Rick grabbed the clipboard and scrawled a play anyway. "Full press, no mercy, it's the only way." The kids glanced at Ben, uncertain. Ben knelt in front of them. His voice was calm but steady. "You don't win by being louder. You win by trusting each other. Do what we practiced. Breathe. Find each other." The kids nodded. The whistle blew. The game swung back and forth, the scoreboard like a pendulum. The crowd stomped, voices echoing off the rafters. With less than a minute left, it was tied. The ball found Lily on the wing. For a heartbeat, she froze. The noise of the gym pressed in. Parents shouting, sneakers squealing, Rick yelling, "Shoot it!" But Lily didn't shoot. She took her 3 breaths, saw a teammate cutting to the basket and fired a crisp pass. The layup dropped through the net. 2 points. The gym erupted. The final buzzer rang moments later. The Tigers had won. Kids leapt into each other's arms. Parents clapped, some wiping their eyes, not caring who saw. On the sideline, Rick stood stiff, his clipboard hanging useless at his side. For the first time, he had no words. Lily ran straight to her dad. "Did you see it? I didn't panic. I trusted." Ben scooped her into his arms, holding tight against the roar of the gym. "I saw," he whispered, "and it was perfect." That night, as the team spilled into the parking lot under the glow of streetlights, parents hugged, kids sang, and for once, victory wasn't just about the scoreboard. It was about a group of kids who believed in themselves, and the dad who had believed first. The season ended not in a championship arena, but in the school cafeteria. Long tables were pushed together, covered with crock-pots and paper plates, the air filled with the smell of chili, macaroni, and too many brownies. Kids darted between chairs, parents laughed over coffee, and for once, no one was checking the scoreboard. Coach Carter tapped a spoon against her cup. "Before we eat," she said, "the kids have something to share." One by one, the players unfolded envelopes they'd written on the very first day of practice, short notes to themselves. "I was scared to dribble," one boy read, his grin wide. "Now I can dribble with both hands." "I thought nobody would pass to me," a girl whispered, "but now I know my team trusts me." Finally, Lily stood, hands trembling as she held her envelope. "I wrote, I didn't think I belonged in the gym, but now I do because my dad showed me I could." The room fell quiet. Parents blinked back tears. Ben sat frozen, throat tight, not prepared to hear his name spoken like that. From the back of the room, Rick shifted. He didn't step forward, didn't make a speech. He just gave Ben a nod. Small, reluctant, but real. For a man who'd fought so hard to hold control, that nod was louder than any whistle. After the kids sat down, Ben stood, still holding Lily's note. His voice cracked but steadied. "I don't care about wins or losses. I care that these kids walk out of this gym believing they matter. That's worth more than any trophy." Coach Carter smiled. "Then let's mark it." She pulled a sheet of poster paper from her bag, rolled it across the wall. "Every player, every parent, leave a handprint, not for rank, for belonging." The kids lined up, dipping their palms in paint trays someone had set out, pressing bright smudges onto the paper. Reds, blues, greens, messy and proud. Parents followed, laughing at the streaks left on their sleeves. When Lily's turn came, she pressed her small hand next to Ben's, then wrote above it in crooked letters, "Still here." The room went still. Then someone started clapping. The sound swelled, filling the cafeteria until even Ben had to laugh through the blur in his eyes. Later, as the tables emptied and families drifted out into the cool night air, Ben walked Lily to the car. She leaned against him, tired but glowing. "Dad," she whispered, "we didn't just play basketball, did we?" He shook his head. "No, kiddo, we built something better." She smiled, eyelids heavy. "Like a circle." Ben wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Exactly, like a circle." And though the season was over, the circle wasn't. It would live in every handprint on that wall, in every kid who walked a little taller, and in a father who finally believed he belonged just as much as his daughter did. Lesson: true coaching and true parenting isn't about pushing for trophies or perfection. It's about building confidence, teaching resilience, and showing kids they belong. Winning fades, but the belief you plant in someone lasts forever. Thank you so much for staying with this story until the very end. I'm truly grateful for your time. If this story touched you, please give it a like and subscribe to Rain Inside for more heartfelt stories. I'll see you again in the next one.